Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the John DeVito Show. It is Friday, and my voice is finally returning a little bit. I've had this nasty cold this week, and I'll tell you, I've been stuffed up, just haven't been able to breathe. And I don't know, I had my COVID vaccination, so I'm not sure what I've had, but it's been pretty nasty. But I am feeling better today. Unfortunately, my daughter has it today. She's not feeling well. It looks like my son has a little bit of it as well, so hopefully we're all going to be getting better for the weekend. But I'll tell you, we got a nice relief in temperatures this week. We had our first heat wave of the year where we had been in the mid 90s for like 5 days straight, up over 95 degrees. And, in the Northeast, we're not really used to that heat. So it was really, really warm here in Massachusetts. And it was tough where, over Memorial Day weekend, we had temperatures that were 45, 48, 50 degrees and rain. And then you fast forward like 1 week ahead and we're like in the mid 90s. So it was like a 50-degree increase in temperatures, which was incredible. So, very warm stretch of weather. And, I normally like the warm weather, but it was really oppressive. And I think it had to do with we had no chance to even get prepared for it. We went from like mid 40s up into the mid 90s, which was really tough to take. So, but everything here is good. We're in the middle of, again, baseball season that's going like crazy. My son Brandon's AAU team wrapped up their season this past weekend, but now he's in the playoffs and has All-Stars coming up. And we were really happy for him the other night where he hit his first home run out of the Little League field here in town. So we were so happy for him. He got up to the plate and he hadn't hit a home run all season in our hometown field. And he hit a bomb to left center field. And I think the thing he was most happy about when he hit that home run was he hit it over the advertising sign for Dick's Sports. So he just kept saying that he hit a home run over the Dick's sign. I think he just liked to say Dick's. But we were happy for him where he hit a home run, and that's 2 on the season for him. And, his big brother hit quite a few when he played there. So it felt good to have Brandon finally hit one out of the park. So, baseball's in full swing. Things are going well. I'm finally getting over my cold, which has been really nasty this week. I mean, I haven't been able to breathe and whatever. And kind of made me nervous that maybe I had COVID. I haven't gotten a COVID test, but I kind of figured because of my, my vaccination shot that I'd be okay. But it was pretty nasty, whatever I've had. But you could probably hear it in my voice a little bit that my voice is still kind of not quite there. So, Eric, hey, thanks for coming in the show. I see you in the studio. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And just want to, talk a little bit about some things going on right now. And we're going to get into a conversation today talking about the phrase, all lives matter. I know that a lot of people are really offended by this phrase. And, for the people that do listen to the show, I want you to realize that this is going to be a show more about love and unification than dissension and division. And that's one of the things we've seen so much of in society lately is where there's just been a lot of division, a lot of division in society and a lot of division, I think, created by the media. And that's something that I think we could all do a lot, do without a lot less of. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm thinking about possibly moving my show to an earlier time. I may start next week going maybe around 8 o'clock in the morning. I know that's early for you, Eric, but one of the shows I'm going to do, and I've thought about this quite a bit. On Monday, I'm going to do a show talking about the Molly Bish murder case. Now, Eric, I know that you're familiar with this. I tried to do an interview with Heather Bish, who was the sister of Molly Bish, and she was not interested in coming on the show, and that's okay. I mean, she's had a lot of media in her life, and I recently heard a quote from her that kind of made me sad. But in Massachusetts, for those of you that don't know, back in 2001, a 16-year-old girl by the name of Molly Bish was murdered. She was abducted and murdered. They found her body 3 years later, and I was a young father at this time, and this hit me really hard thinking about this. Well, they found her body in the woods a couple of years after the abduction and the murder, and they still have not found the actual killer of this young woman. Well, apparently police finally came out, and it looks like they may have the murderer. So he's passed away, but they think that they've identified him. So what I'm going to do Monday is I'm going to have a show on the Molly Bish case. So I'm going to give you all some background on Molly Bish, what happened to her, and then give some information about the new break in the case they have, where they maybe have finally found her murderer. And there has been some thought that this person may have murdered other young girls in our area as well. There was another girl years back that was located in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, which was not too far away from Warren, Massachusetts, where Molly Bish lived. And a young girl by the name of Holly Peranian was with her grandparents, and she was abducted also, and she was murdered as well. So that's going to be on my show Monday morning. So hopefully some of you tune into that. Hey, Snow Pro, good to see you. Cummings, good to see you. Welcome everybody coming in. Flying Hand, welcome. So yeah, so that'll be my show on Monday. Again, it's going to be about the Molly Bish murder case. So hopefully you all tune into that. It's really a sad case, but I'm hoping for the family that they have finally figured this thing out and found the person that abducted and murdered their 16-year-old daughter/sister. And the one comment that her sister Heather made on television the other day really made me sad. She said, I'm a teacher, and for the last 20 years, I've been a teacher trying to solve a murder. And I just want to go back to being a teacher again. And it just broke my heart to think about what that family's been through over the years. It really will, Deborah. It was such, if you don't know anything about the case, Google the girl's name. It's Molly, Molly. The last name is Bish, Bish. She was a beautiful young girl. It was her first job, and it was just such a sad thing. So tune in Monday, and you'll hear about all about the case and all about the person that they believe actually committed the murder. Okay, so we're going to get to today's topic. And I know the topic is going to turn some people off, but I want to say in the very beginning, this show is meant to be, like I said earlier, about love and unification, not separation, not division, and not so many of the things that we, have heard about the topic from the media. And it was kind of funny. I wasn't feeling great still today, and I wasn't going to do the show today. I was just going to put it off till Monday. I was in line at Dunkin' Donuts this morning, and this fired me up. So I was in line at Dunkin' Donuts, and there was a car in front of me. And the bumper sticker on the back of the car said, "All lives will never matter until Black Lives Matter." And, I remember looking at that bumper sticker, and I'm in my car, and I'm like, it just aggravated me. I do understand. I mean, when I think about everything that's happened in this country, and we go back, several hundred years, we've had, slavery, we've had racism, we've had a lot of horrible things happened to African-American people in this country. And, for people to want to deny that, I mean, it's not fair to deny that Black people have had a very difficult go in this country. There is no doubt about that. And for me, like I've said, I've got, I've had a lot of very good experiences in my life with people of color. I've talked a lot about my son being at the boxing gym with mostly men of color, how well they've treated, my son. And my son, Matt, who just graduated from high school the other night, he's got autism, he's got Tourette's syndrome. He wouldn't be where he is today if it hadn't been for the men of color in that gym that welcomed him in for 8 years and helped him work on his self-esteem. So, I get it. I understand. I mean, I guess I understand as well as a white person can understand that a lot of Black people are angry, and they should be angry. They've been mistreated for many years in this country. They are still mistreated. And it's funny, I sit back and I live in this, white suburban neighborhood that I live in this white suburban town. And you think a lot of times when you live in your little glass house like I do, that racism doesn't really exist anymore as much as it used to. And I can't get specific about this, but there was recently something that happened in my town where it just kind of really shocked me, where there was a definite racial incident that happened. And I can't give you any more detail than that, but it really opened my eyes and really shocked me that this type of thing happened in my town. And it was very sad, very unfortunate, and very, very disappointing to hear that it happened. So a lot of times you sit back and you think to yourself, okay, well, it's the year 2021, and these racist things don't happen anymore, but they do. But Cummings is right. The things still happen to all people of all colors, and that's true. And that's kind of my point today. When I hear the term "all lives matter," you have people out there that get very angry. They say, well, when you say all lives matter, that's a racist comment. When you say all lives matter, you're diminishing the Black Lives Matter movement. And in my mind, that is not what all lives matter is about. It's what the media has tried to portray all lives matter to be. Now, for me, when I look at Black Lives Matter, I love the idea of the term because it is true. I mean, Black Lives Matter. They're a very important part of our society. They matter. They deserve to be respected just like every other race. But unfortunately, I think the organization behind the phrase Black Lives Matter has become more of a militant type of group, and they really have special interests in mind, and they're not looking to make things better for people. And when you look at African Americans in this country, again, we've talked about this in the past. You've got the Democratic Party, you've got the Republican Party in this country. What has the Democratic Party done to improve the lives of African Americans in this country? And again, not just African Americans, but let's talk about poor white Americans. Let's talk about Hispanic Americans. Let's talk about all immigrants that come into this country. What has the Democratic Party done to improve the lives of these people? I mean, if you look across the country, you look at Los Angeles, you look at Chicago, you look at Baltimore, you look at New York City, you look at Boston, you look at all of these large cities that are all predominantly Democratic run cities. And what do you have in these cities? You have large groups of African Americans, of Hispanic Americans, of poor white Americans living in these cities, and they are on welfare. They're on Section 8. They are dependent on the system. There are not jobs being provided for these people that pay a fair wage. So they're kind of caught in a situation where they have to sit back and rely on public money as opposed to going out and getting a job and supporting their family and earning a good wage. So unfortunately, the party who is supported by the media that continues to tell people that, Black Lives Matter are really not doing anything to benefit African Americans in this world. I mean, I see in Los Angeles now, there are giant tent cities popping up all around the state. Where's the government to help them? Where's the government to give them an actual, place to live? Where's the government there to provide them with an education or a job where they can earn a decent amount of money, where they can actually support their family? Chicago, I mean, a huge Democratic city, again, the most gun violence in the country. Black men are going out and shooting each other at an alarming rate because they have so many gangs in Chicago. What's being done to prevent this? What is being done to actually walk? I like the old saying, you can talk the talk, but you need to walk the walk. Where are they walking the walk in Chicago and backing up the Black Lives Matter movement when they're allowing thousands of black men to be shot every year in gang violence, and no one is stepping in to prevent this from happening? So for me, the biggest evil we have in this country right now is the media. The media is tearing us apart. They are tearing apart our country. They are tearing apart our people, and they are causing divisiveness like we have never seen in this country, right? And again, it's amazing when you sit down at night, you can watch MSNBC, you can watch NBC, you can watch Fox, you can watch Newsmax, you can choose all the different types of media outlets. And it's like you're living in two or three different countries when you watch these outlets. They're all presenting a different story. They're all presenting a different spin. And that's what gets me about when you hear, Black Lives Matter, when you hear Asian Lives Matter. To me, that's as racist as saying, Black lives don't matter. I mean, because what they're doing is when you can't say all lives matter, or when you can't say white lives matter, then what we're seeing is racism against white people. And racism of any kind, whatever it's against, if it's against African Americans, if it's against Hispanic Americans, if you have sexism against women, if there's homophobia against people who are gay, all of that is wrong, just as racism against white people is wrong. And you can't go back in this country and say, because we've had such race issues in this country, well, now it's time to be racist against white people. And when you throw out, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Asian Lives Matter movement, and you leave out purposely an entire race of people, which are white people. And again, I don't like the description of white people either. I don't even really consider myself to be a white person. I mean, my family did not live here during slave times. My family were immigrants. They came from Italy. They came from Ireland. They came from France. I have a lot of different things. In my history, my wife's family comes from Portugal, from Italy, from Ireland. So really, when the whole slavery thing was happening, none of my ancestors lived here. So it's not like we had anything to do with the slavery that happened in this country many, many years ago. And let me be clear. Slavery was horrible, horrible. I can't even imagine how something like that happened in this country. But we've seen it time and time again. We've seen it with Native Americans. We've seen it in the 1940s, with the Germans and the Jewish people they were trying to basically wipe the Jewish people off the planet. We have seen these things happen over and over again over the course of history. And for me, I wish we could live in a country where we could all stop listening to the media. We could turn off the television, turn off the radio, throw away, whatever form of news you're looking at, and all start respecting each other as people. What is wrong with realizing and saying that all lives matter? I'm here to say that, to me, it's crazy. By me saying all lives matter on the show today, it doesn't mean I'm a racist. It doesn't mean any of you are racist. We're just acknowledging that everybody matters. Everybody matters. When I see videos, I've seen videos lately where I've seen Asian people. You have people walking up to Asian people and just knocking them out, punching them in the face, smacking them in the back of the head, knocking them down to the ground. I get sick to my stomach when I see that. I get sick to my stomach. And, when I see a hashtag like Asian Lives Matter, of course they matter. Of course they do. Of course Asian lives matter. Of course Black lives matter. Of course Indian lives matter. Muslim lives matter. Jewish lives matter. Palestinian lives matter. Everyone's lives matter. And I don't know why this has to become a political issue where we're all at each other's throats and we're fighting over it. All lives in this country matter, period. All lives in this world matter, period. And if we had an attitude in this life where we all cared about each other, instead of constantly trying to tear each other down, this world would be a better place. This country would be a better place. And, again, maybe we would have each other's backs instead of constantly being at each other. But we're being manipulated. We are being manipulated. Oh, and there goes my phone. Hold on 1 second. And you know what this is? I'll tell you what this is. If I can turn it down. There we go. Live radio with a podcast. That is my dog, Molly. My dog, Molly, is being groomed, and that was the groomer saying she's ready to be picked up. So that's what that phone call was. I apologize. But see, Cummings, that's the problem right now. All lives in this country matter. All lives in this world matter. But we're being told now by the media, and we're being told by people that if you're white, you're not allowed to say that your life matters. And if you say all lives matter, then you're a racist. And again, who's basically who's the problem with in all lives matter? Is the problem with Black people? No. Is the problem with Asian people? No. Is the problem with Native American or indigenous people? No. Is it with Indian people? No. The problem lies with white people. If you say all lives matter, then basically you are saying that white people matter, and you're also saying that police officers matter when you come out and say blue lives matter. And it's just sad to see that we're living in a country where the left and the media is pushing racism, and that's what they're doing. And they want, white people to sit back, shut their mouths, and take it. And I get that, different races have been up against a lot of different things in this country. But you're right. It's the Democratic Party. The Democratic Left Party is pushing this. I think Black Lives Matter was hijacked, and it was made out to be an extremist group. And you see really a lot of African-American people that speak up also, for white people in this matter, saying that they believe also that the term all lives matter should be used, and it shouldn't be considered a racist type of comment. Now, I mentioned a little while ago also, I wanted to address this really quickly. I talked about Blue Lives Matter. Blue Lives Matter is something where, we are calling out and thanking police officers for protecting us in this world. And, thank God for me. I mean, I think about police officers, if someone's trying to break into your house, if you're in an accident, if your life's in danger, you have men and women who are willing to put on their uniforms and come out and try to save your life, try to protect you, try to make sure you're not injured. And they're putting their own lives in danger. Now, recently here in Massachusetts, this is a guy that we knew. And, we weren't good friends with him. But my son Brandon played AAU baseball for a team in Worcester, Massachusetts. And there was a gentleman, a young kid on my son's team. His father's name is Manny Familia. So I'm sure some of you may have seen this on the news in different places, depending on where you live. But recently, Manny Familia, who was an officer in Worcester, Massachusetts, tried to jump into a lake to save a young teenager who was drowning. Now, Manny Familia was a Hispanic man. He has his son and his wife and his daughter, and he jumped into a lake to try to save a young white teenager. And unfortunately, Manny Familia was not a good swimmer. So he jumped into the lake. The teenager drowned, and Mr. Familia also drowned. Over the last few days, they've had different funerals and parades in Massachusetts in his honor. But this was a guy that I've met several times, and I was able to talk to him, going back a few years ago. And you really couldn't ask to meet like a nicer guy. I mean, this is a guy who is the definition of the right kind of police officer. He put his life on the line to protect everybody and did his job the right way, in a very respectful way. And we lost him here in Massachusetts. So I'm Instagram friends with him. And I had just seen him post the other day that he had gone to a baseball game with his son. And then you fast forward a couple of days later, and the guy jumped into a lake trying to save a young boy and lost his life. So, the defund the police crowd, as Eric's talking about, is something that drives me crazy. And granted, there are officers out there, like in every aspect of life, that are bad people. I mean, you're going to run into police officers that are racist. You're going to run into police officers that are not good police officers. But I still believe that the vast majority of police officers are good people who get into the profession to save lives and to protect others. In every profession you look at, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being a lawyer, whether it's being a teacher, you're going to find people that are not good at what they do. You're going to find people that are poor in their professions. Unfortunately, when you look at someone like a police officer or a doctor, when someone makes a mistake in their career, then sometimes lives are lost. And are you going to have police officers out there that are racist? Of course you are. Of course you are, just like in every other aspect of life. But this officer here in Worcester, Manny Familia, look him up on the internet if you have a chance. His full name is Emmanuel Familia. And man, it really broke our heart here in the Worcester area, and we're still kind of suffering through that. So I just wanted to send a special shout out to his family, to his wife, to his children. Your father, your husband died as a hero, and we have so many police officers in this country who go out every day. They put that uniform on, they put their badge on, they strap that gun to their waist, and they don't know what they're going to be walking into. And, sometimes they walk into situations with dangerous criminals and they have to react. So for me, you've heard the term Blue Lives Matter also. I am an absolute supporter of the police department. Again, there are a few bad apples out there, but that does not spoil the bunch. I mean, could you imagine what this country would be like if we actually did not have police officers out there to protect us? I don't know how we would survive. I don't know how we would live in this country. I don't know how our country would survive. And you're right. I saw someone mentioning earlier, Flying Ham mentioned, Minnesota is figuring it out right now. In other places also. I mean, you got places like Chicago. You got places like up in Oregon. You got places like in Washington where these exact things are happening right now. And they've defunded the police. They've cut back on the number of police officers are out there. And now you're seeing crime skyrocketing in these places. So having, a viable police department or a police presence out in this country is very important. And we've got to continue to support that. So, this country right now, I've never seen anything quite like it. And I see USA has entered the live studio. Great name. I'm here with you, my brother. I agree. And, we're seeing times like I've never seen before in this country. I mean, you're seeing inflation at all-time highs. We've been through this pandemic. I mean, to me, it looks like, movie theaters aren't going to make it. I think our country is going to change like we haven't seen over the next several years. I mean, in my area, I'm not sure if it's this way for everybody else out there, but in Massachusetts, they still decided to extend the unemployment benefits. So literally now you have stores in this area like Walmart that are offering anywhere from $17 to $20 an hour to stock shelves at a Walmart or to work at a grocery store or to work at one of those stores. I mean, can you imagine they can't get people to work at a Walmart for like $20 an hour? I mean, that's, 40-hour week. That's $800 a week That's pretty damn good money. And they can't find people because of the unemployment. So right now you've got stores that can't find employees. You've got, all these crazy, so same things happening in Maine, Snow Pro. That's amazing. So, I mean, it's just crazy that I've never lived in a period of my life where you walk around and you see every store is hiring. I mean, right now is a teenager's dream. If you have a teenager that wants a job, you can get out and make really good money right now. And you can basically pick wherever you want to work. But anyway, to get back to what I'm talking about, I know that the phrase is kind of like a lightning rod for trouble. All lives matter. When you say all lives matter, oh my God, he must be a racist. I don't feel that way. I really don't. I mean, to me, I acknowledge that Black lives matter. I acknowledge that, Hispanic lives matter, Asian lives matter. And again, when there's violence against any group of people, then it's wrong. And I saw a little article here. I wanted to read this really quickly. So this is an explanation as to how to explain why saying all lives matter is wrong to someone you care about. Okay. And they show a person in this article. She's holding up a sign, and she's a Black woman, and her sign says, "Why is ending racism a debate?" Now that sign is right on the money. So this is an article again about, the term Black Lives Matter or all lives matter being wrong. And there's a sign right here with a woman holding the sign, "Why is ending racism a debate?" I agree, because when you say Black Lives Matter and you say different things like that, like Asian lives matter, and you are eliminating white people from saying their lives matter, isn't that racism? Isn't that just racism against the white people in this country? I mean, to me, it seems like it is. To me, it seems like a no-brainer. So here you go. This is the article. Let me read this really quickly. So, with Black Lives Matter protests have taken place around the world in 2020, and discussion about racism in Australia and globally at an all-time high, you've probably seen the deeply problematic phrase of all lives matter pop up as a response in social media. And if you're Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, that phrase has likely been particularly triggering, especially if you've seen it come through your feed and discovered that the person preaching it is someone you know or care about. Of course, all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. Harmful rhetoric is by no means restricted to social media, nor is it restricted to people of color to feel enraged by its insinuation. With now being the prime time for white allies who feel strongly about the situation to speak out alongside their fellow friends of color. And while it is also tempting to just walk away from the situation thinking, what good will speaking out do? They've clearly made up their minds. Believe me, as a person of color, I've been there. It's never been more imperative that we all, especially white people, become anti-racist, actively going out of our way to stop racism, as opposed to simply being non-racist, not being racist ourselves, but doing nothing to speak out against racism. So if you have decided to confront an extremely misguided all lives matter from someone you care about, we've pulled together a list of their most common arguments and some helpful lines that help you make your point. So analogies to help respond to all lives matter. Quite often, the people who say all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter believe they are doing a good thing by grouping the fight against racism into one overarching battle. And while this theory holds some weight in a utopian, almost post-radical world, which we are not in, it completely denies the long-standing racially specific struggles faced by Black and Indigenous communities. So what do you say to someone you care about who espouses this argument? For starters, here are a few quick analogies to kick off or include in your response. Saying all lives matter right now is like saying save all forests in response to someone saying save the Amazon. Now, for me, if someone says save the Amazon, I have no problem with saving all forests. I mean, if we're looking to save forests, why only save the Amazon? Save all forests. If we save all the forests in this world, then we are, doing what we need to do in order to make sure we have a healthy planet. So that's just a stupid thing, in my opinion. Now, here's another one. That's like saying all houses matter when your neighborhood house is on fire. You couldn't even think this example in the Australian bushfires. So again, if you're, who's going to walk up to a neighbor's house who's burning and say all houses matter? That's just a completely stupid argument. So another one is saying all lives matter is like going to a cancer fundraiser and saying there are many other diseases too. Yes, like every life matters, but Black lives are being disproportionately impacted and killed because of racism. And that's why Black lives is so important. So, I mean, this is not, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is just such a stupid way to think about things. And it makes absolutely no sense. So for me, the term all lives matter, I don't see how this is racist. And we are being made to believe it's racist by a media and a political system that's trying to rip us apart. And this is something we've talked about over and over and over again on my show, where we have this issue in our country right now where the media is trying to tear us apart. They're trying to divide and conquer us. They're trying to separate us, and they're being successful. And this is just another way they're doing it. It's black versus white. It's gay versus straight. It's Democrat versus Republican. It's American versus European. It's Trump versus Biden. They are doing everything they can within their power to divide and conquer us. And if we continue to let them do it, then we are nothing as a country. I mean, again, if I'm a white man and I'm being mugged by someone out in the street and a black man steps in to help me, thank God. Thank God that you stepped in to help me. If I see a black man being mugged and I can step in to help him, I'm going to help him because his life matters just like my life matters. Just like the Asian person who's walking the streets in New York City and you have some random person coming up and punching him and knocking him out. I mean, when you see these things that are happening in this country right now, we have one hate crime after another. And I think all of this is stemming from our leaders in this country who are promoting hate and they're promoting violence over love and compassion. So it's just crazy to me. So I see Cummings made a comment. I've worked since I was 12 years old, and I've seen people who have had different circumstances get ahead of me. But it isn't racism. It's life. You're absolutely right. I see Snowpro saying racism doesn't have a color. It doesn't. It doesn't. There are racist white people. There are racist black people. There are racist Hispanic people. There are racist Native American people. There are racist Indian people. There are racist Europeans. I mean, racism is a disease in this country. And I'm sorry, but when you are not allowing white people the same courtesy that other people are getting and saying that their life matters, then we have a systematic problem in this country. And it's something that I worry about because when I see all lives matter, I mean, if I say to someone, all lives matter, I'm not saying that as a shot to African-American people. I'm not saying that as a shot to Hispanic people. I'm just saying that I believe every single person in this country, regardless of their color, regardless of their religion, regardless of their sexual orientation, they all matter. They all matter. So is it okay to say Black Lives Matter, but then be a homophobic, against gay people? Is it okay to say, Asian lives matter, but then not be for trans people? If we're going to walk, if we're going to talk the talk, we got to walk the walk, and we got to back up everybody. So again, until we get to a place in this country where literally every single person, man, woman, child, gay, straight, trans, asexual, anything, until we get to the point where every single person matters and we learn how to respect each other, we are never going to live in a country or a world without racism. And it's there. It's always going to be there. And I'm sorry, but when you condemn a phrase like all lives matter, you are now condemning white people. And that is no better than condemning black people. It's no better than condemning Asian people. It's no better than condemning Native American people. It's no better than condemning gay people. It's hate. And hate is always bad. Hate is always bad. And unfortunately, we have a media and we have a government that's pushing hate on us all the time. And it's hard to look past it. It's hard to look past it. But I'm saying out there to all of my brothers, to all of my sisters, to everybody that listens to my voice, I don't care what color you are. If you're a black man, if you're a white man, if you're a Hispanic man, if you're a Muslim, if you're a good person and you need my help, you call me, you text me, you ask me for my help, and I will always be here for you. Always. But if you're a person that has hate in their heart, then I will not be here for you. And honestly, I talked about something that happened in my area recently. and this thing that happened were with people that I know. There was a racist incident that happened in my area, and it was a racist incident that happened where a white person was responsible for being racist towards a black person, and I knew all of the parties involved. And I can tell you point blank that I lost all respect for the white person that was at the middle of this thing. Lost all respect. And actually, I did my part and sent evidence of what happened to the local authorities to help the authorities crack down on the white person that had done what they did. And there was a black person that was being accused of causing the problem, and it was not the case. So it was something that I kind of get in the middle of very quietly, sent evidence off to the police to help exonerate the black person and showed that the white person was actually at fault. So for me, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. Now, listen, I'm not going to take any calls today. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm at 36 minutes now. I'm going to wrap this up by 45 minutes. Let me just let Eric call in. I'm going to have him call in today. And I'm not going to take anybody else. And I'm going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. So, Eric, if you could, welcome to the show and tell me, am I off base? Am I right? What do you think on this?
I think you're making a great point. But I've even put some interesting comments down in the chat about, because I think at the end of the day, even our good friend Slightly Serious says is you're going to have douchebags in society no matter what. And I think the haters who take pride in hating, I think those people just need to get off their, excuse my French, their fucking high horse. And I think they need to just take a look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, why am I doing this?
No, it's true. Because, I mean, it's crazy,
Yep. Because, I know me and Slightly and MCL, we were fortunate enough to have met Miss Peggy on MCL show last year. And this is a 65-year-old black lady, who said it best. All lives matter. And then the black community would probably be looking at her like how dare you say that?
You know what though? I've seen a lot of African American people that I think disagree with the Black Lives Matter movement. And when I say the movement, not the sentiment behind it, but the organization behind it. Because you've got people that are making all kinds of money off of this. And honestly, when I hear the term Black Lives Matter, it doesn't anger me. I agree. Black lives do matter. Of course they do. Of course they do. But I think the organization has taken advantage of it,
Well, the way I look at the BLM organization, I know you and I are in agreement that Black Lives Matter, was created with the very best of intentions. But what happened is that it just essentially got hijacked by radical groups, making it out to be something that it's not.
Right. No, exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. And that's the problem we're dealing with right now, man. I look at all the things that are going on in this country right now. We talked about them time and time again. You've got, I've never seen our country this bad. I'm kind of an older guy, man, and I've never seen it like this. You look at, Kamala Harris, you see her the other day, she lied about being down at the border. She's like, I've been to the border. And even Lester Holt called her out and said, no, you haven't. You haven't been to the border. And she admitted that she lied.
Oh, yeah, she'll just laugh and giggle it off, similar to the soundbite.
Well, that's the thing. She laughs and giggles, but now, don't those lives matter? Don't the immigrants' lives matter? Again, Joe Biden welcomed all these immigrants into our country. And again, for me, I wish we had a better legal immigration system in this country. If you had people that want to come into this country, give them a real path to citizenship. You let them apply, let them come in like my grandparents did, and let them come into this country, get a job, work, and have a better life for their families. But now you got God knows how many children are down there in cages, in essence. There were maybe 20,000 children living in squalor, a lot of them being sent into sex trafficking. And these are because Biden and Harris have let them into the country. Now, when you say different lives matter, aren't these people of color who are coming in from the South, and we're allowing them in, and they're being abused, and they're being beaten, and they're being left without food, and they're being forced to live in squalor? Don't their lives matter? Kamala, where are you? You're the czar that's supposed to be down there, and you're the czar that's supposed to be helping these people, and you haven't even been down to the border once to even see how things are going. You've had all the Republicans down there, But I mean, what the hell are you doing? Get down there and do your job. I mean, she gives her speech where she says, do not come, do not come. It's a little too late for that. They already came.
Well,
Oh,
look at Guatemala. That they basically made it clear to Kamala Harris that she's not welcome there. They told her basically go home and Trump won.
Yeah.
And I get that you have immigrants coming to this country because they want a better life for themselves or they want to escape communism. But then you have a democratic socialist party here that's promising the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But really, what it is they want them to escape communism to more communism.
No, it's true. And it's just a sad thing. And
then I know you've got some conservative Democrats like Joe Manchin and you have like good Republicans who want what's best for this country, who, that they could just basically give a big middle finger to the establishment.
Oh, there goes my phone again.
But it's unfortunate, like that they can't and don't seem to speak up, or their voices are basically drowned out and they're basically rendered irrelevant.
That's true. It's true, man. I don't know what to make of this country right now. There are so many things that are going on that are just wrong. We've got a president and a vice president that don't seem to give a damn about anybody. They are destroying jobs. They've destroyed the economy. Our gas is, $4 a gallon in places now. It was $1.80 a year ago. And you've got inflation like I've never seen. I'll tell you what terrifies me right now. The prices of everything can't keep going up. It's going to become untenable at a certain point. And you have to wonder, the price of everything keeps going up. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to be paying people at Walmart $40 an hour to get people to work? I'm afraid that we are going to see a crash of the stock market, a crash of the real estate prices, and a crash of the economy like we've never seen before. And I mean, things just can't keep going up like they're doing right now. I mean, what's happening right now is literally impossible. I saw a story the other day, and this was crazy. I saw a story the other day where a guy went out and he bought a pickup truck. Like last year, he bought like a top line Dodge Ram, whatever the hell it was, pickup truck. He paid $71,000 for the truck brand new, which is a lot of money. And then he drove it for a year. He put 29,000 miles on that truck in the year. And then he brought it back and sold it for more money than he paid for it. When has a vehicle in the history of this country become an appreciating value? Never. I mean, when you buy a car and you drive it out of the dealership, it immediately goes down in value. Cars in general are not a good investment unless you go out and buy like a 57 Corvette or something like that. And then you can turn it around and sell it for good money years down the road. But it's just crazy where you are now seeing common vehicles going up in value after people buy them. I mean, this is crazy. It's crazy. But that's the world we're living in right now. We're living in a world where, only Black lives and Asian lives matter and other lives matter. If you say white lives matter, you're a racist. But eliminating white people from the phrase is racism at its core. So you can't say all lives matter, because basically what they're saying is white people don't matter anymore. So we don't matter. And if we try to say that we do matter, shut up and get down in the box. That's where you belong. And I don't understand how people can back that up, because for the people out there that listen to this show afterwards, don't be confused. What I stand for is every single person on this planet matters. I don't care where you live, where you're from, how much money you have, how much money you don't have, whether you like men, whether you like women, whether you don't like anybody, whether you're black, white, green, blue, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. And if we could all come together as one people, we would be better off. But we can't continue to let the media and the politicians divide us with things like these terms right now. And what happens is they make you afraid to speak up, kind of like during COVID. If you walked into a building and you didn't wear your mask, you didn't care about people. You're selfish. You only care about yourself. You don't believe in science. Isn't that what they're all saying? You don't believe in science. You're ignorant. You're a Trumpkin. You're all these different things. And that's what happens when, if you're afraid to come out and say white lives matter. Oh, you're a racist when you say that. You don't care about African-American people. Not true. Not true. But that is the narrative they're pushing. It's another form of taking away your First Amendment rights of free speech. And that's what our government's doing, Eric. I mean,
you know, and it's even infiltrated our schools. Like, and I just DM'd you a video on Twitter a while ago of, like a New York State Board of Education that got their asses handed to them in a big way by a very passionate parent. And it's a 10-minute video you've got to watch. And I'm sure you might talk about it one day next week on the show, as well as, and our friend Jeremy, of course, also wants to help a hashtag trend crow called Flip Fauci, because we know he's going to be a patsy in this whole pandemic.
Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci's going down in a ball of flames, man. Because you know what's going to happen? They're going to bury him. When anything comes out about them knowing about the coronavirus coming from that lab in Wuhan, who do you think the fall guy's going to be? Fauci's going down in a ball of flames. There's nothing he can do. I mean, Biden, Obama, they're all going to bury him. There's no doubt about it. That's how they work. And
then, of course, the topic of reparations, is like the only reparations I would be in support of is the Chinese Communist government being made to pay America and other countries for intentionally letting this virus get out and infect people and kill people around the world.
I hope China's buried. I see Deborah's comment down in the in the post. I mean, I don't understand how China hasn't been buried. I mean, China, Jesus, they unleashed this virus on the world. And all right, let's say, for argument's sake, it was on accident, which I don't believe for a second. Let's say it was on accident. You still killed people all over the world. Now, let's go the more sinister route where it was done on purpose. They murdered hundreds of thousands of people across the world. Think of the money that was spent. Think of the economies that have been destroyed. I mean, we're not going to hold them accountable. We're not going to hold them accountable for what they've done. I mean, why don't we just sit back, let China take over the world, and we could just roll over and give up? Because that's in essence what we're doing. If we all have these national debts that we owe to China, why don't we look at China and say, well, you unleashed the coronavirus on the world, you killed how many people? That 10 trillion that we owe you. Well, fuck you. We're not going to pay you. It's now off the books. Don't pay.
Well,
don't pay.
They probably own the biggest majority of U.S. debts, but you probably have other countries who hate our guts that also own debts too. But the media likes to report the debt being around the area of $30 or $40 trillion. But you might even have people who would just come to you saying that is really not an accurate number, because that is not factoring in interest accruing on our debt over time and unfunded liabilities. And I've even heard somebody say that the real national debt could be somewhere in the area of around $200 trillion, which 200 trillion is an astronomical number.
I mean, I can't even understand that number. It's so, $200 trillion. I mean, that is just such a ridiculous number. And I don't even understand how.
That's probably to the moon and back money right there.
Oh, it's crazy.
Or to Mars and back money, for that matter.
Hey, listen, Eric, I unfortunately have to sign off. I may do a show over the weekend, but why don't you run down some of the shows coming up, and I will be back Monday morning. Now, for everybody that's here, but before I let you do your thing, Monday morning I'm going to do a show about the Molly Bish murder case. And again, very sad show. It's but they think they may have finally found her murderer after 20 years, thank God. So I'm going to do a show about her, since she's from my area. This broke my heart when it happened, and I'm hoping that the family finally gets a chance to rest and at least know who the person was that took their 16-year-old daughter's life. Now, on the topic of today's show, my last comment on this is, when I say all lives matter, I mean all lives matter. There's no hidden comment. There's no hidden meaning. White people matter. Black people matter. Asian people matter. Indian people matter. Indigenous people matter. Native American people matter. Italians, Irish, Australians. Everybody on this planet matters, whether you're gay or straight, whether you have special needs or you don't, whatever you are, everybody matters. And until we get to the point in this life or in this world where we no longer have hate, we no longer have division, we no longer hate people for reasons that don't matter, and we learn to love people and we learn to love each other, then things are never going to change. And I hope that if this hits one person, that you sit back and you realize that, if you have hate in your heart, you need to get rid of it. You need to find love for other people. If you see someone that needs help, it shouldn't matter what the color of their skin is. Help people who need help and love people, because that's what it all comes down to. And that's what's in my heart. I love everybody out there until, again, someone gives you a reason not to love them. But I mean, to not love someone based on the color of their skin makes no sense. We're in the year 2021. This isn't 1841. This isn't 1941. This is 2021, and we need to evolve as a people where we realize that every single person that resides on this giant ball of mud is, matters. And because we all do. And just as I said that, a beautiful red cardinal flew on the branch right in front of my window. Beautiful, beautiful bird. I'm not one that would ever comment on a bird, but it was like a beautiful red bird just popped right up on the branch right in front of me. I never see those here, so that was pretty amazing. So, all right, Eric, I'm going to let us know who's coming.
Jeremy had a Redbird story yesterday during his Thursday evening show, but coming up on Podbean Live, you've got the Milk Dog 2020 show, as well as you've got other friends like Doc G and Dark Bear and Frankie D and a few others. And even Podbean is doing a special series like on how-tos and Ask Me Anythings today and tomorrow. But if you think those are a real doozy, I think you might be interested in joining Jeremy for our own Podbean Ask Me Anything on Comics is Culture at 7 p.m. Eastern.
I like that.
As I anticipate, like the Podbean Ask Me Anything shows are probably going to be a real doozy yet again. And then, of course, with the weekend, you've got the Slightly Serious show coming up tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You've got, of course, names like Chris Unplugged and Mysteries of the Paranormal, and as well as the Old Man's Friday Night Music Show and Tall Tales of the Rabbit Hole with Dennis Lee. And then, of course, the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you've got the It's Doomsday podcast and the Turfy show, as well as the Beans and Weenies comedy show and Trice Talk. And
hey, Snow Pro, I'm coming to Maine in like 3 weeks. Let's grab that beer. I'll text you. All right, go ahead.
And then, of course, all next week, like Ralph William, Freedom Warrior, as well as Old Man, and you also doing some shows and Slightly Serious and Cummings' Culture, Mike Tampa Bay and Torch, and a few other great friends, Laura and Lou and Pink Squirrel. I mean, that list just goes on and on.
Right.
Some great podcast friends and support. And then shout outs to podcast friends that have been on hiatus for a while, like the gang from the Raw Report and Almost Everything. And we're glad to see Maverick from the Slacker 82 podcast has come back too.
Nice. All right.
But we'd like to wish everybody a very blessed weekend and look forward to seeing and hearing from everybody again soon.
All right, everybody, get out there and enjoy your weekend. And remember, every single one of you matters. I love you all. Take care now.
Love you. God bless you.
Whoa, that was loud.